Hi, and welcome to Spooky Owls. My name's David Saunderson, and today we're talking to Mark Bailey from Powys Paranormal in Wales. How are you, Mark?
Oh, very good, thank you. Thanks for having me, mate.
No, thank you. We're always interested in talking to paranormal investigators around Britain and Ireland, and it's been a while since we've spoken to anyone from Wales, and so and I'm always really quite interested in what's happening there. Mark, can you tell us about Powys Paranormal? We'll just start off at the very beginning. How
Okay.
did that start?
Well, I've been investigating just me and my wife for about 14 years, and we moved back to Wales to start a family. And as you've heard, babies in the background has been very successful. Um, and I kind of stopped investigating for a couple of years when my son was born because I didn't want him being around all that kind of ththing. And obviously, there's a possibility you could bring things home with you, and I didn't want my family involved with that. But I got the bug. I went on an investigation with a different team, and basically caught the bug again. So I was like, okay, I can get back into this. So I started a team about 8 years ago. Sorry, about 3 years ago, and we've been investigating as a team ever since.
Had you had a team before that, or was this the first time you've sort of set up your own one?
This is the first time we've set up my own team. Yeah.
Okay, and how did you find that? I mean, that's something we haven't really talked about before, but
Mm,
there are a lot of people who set up teams,
mm,
paranormal teams, and I suppose they go with the sort of a generic kind of, you have your team leader and you have your, mediums or sensitives, and then you maybe
mm,
might have your skeptic, and then you have someone who's really good at the instruments and stuff like that.
mm.
How did you what did you do to get your team set up?
Well, basically, I put a post out on a couple of Facebook groups, seeing if anybody would be interested. I had to shut the post down because within 5 minutes I had 235 responses of people messaging me.
Just
So
in
I had
just
to
in the Powers area.
just in the Powys area, yeah. So then I held interviews. I did obviously Facebook interviews, chatting to them, getting to know them a bit first, and then held face-to-face interviews with them to see what kind of interest they've got, or whether they're just after a bit of fame, because that's not what Paris Paranormal is about. We don't
Yeah,
chase the big contracts or anything like that. We just go out and do what we do.
yeah.
Um, and basically made a team up 3 years ago. Had our first investigation, went really well. So we just carried on. Team members have come and gone, as they tend to do. But the team I've got at the moment are probably the most solid crew I've worked with since I've been doing it.
Okay.
Mm,
I mean, that is extraordinary to get so
mm,
many people wanting to be paranormal investigators. What was it
mm,
like when you first went out on your first sort of trip with these? I mean, I'd say the word strangers because you've just met them over the
mm,
internet.
mm.
Did you click with them all? Were there problems? What were the things
Oh,
what were the challenges?
the initial investigation we did, we all seemed to click pretty well. There was obviously a lot of fear because a lot of the team, this was the first time investigating. They've been on paranormal with other groups as guests, but this was the first time they'd actually done an investigation themselves. And my background is I'm ex-military, so when I say things, I like things to be done. So I'll be like, right, I want you to go and do a lone vigil. And to begin with, there was a lot of fear. They're like, oh, I can't do it, I can't do it. So I'd sit with them whilst we're doing these lone vigils, and slowly but surely build them up to be able to sit there by themselves and try and communicate that way. Um, there was some character clashes along the way. Um, I remember specifically one of my team members, who was no longer a team member, didn't like the fact that I was in charge. So,
Oh, well,
yeah, there was a massive clash of egos there, and they decided to leave, which was very thankful because it was causing a lot of stress within the team.
okay.
Yeah.
Where was it? What was the place that you did the first investigation?
First investigation was a place called Phoenix Furniture in Newtown in Powys. Brilliant site. I wasn't expecting much activity there. I've actually got a video of it up on YouTube, and it was an old cooperative supermarket. But we found out it had actually been built on the grounds that used to be an Edwardian school for boys before, and before it was in Edwardian school, it was part of the cemetery to the church that was just behind it. So there were graves underneath this site that have been
Okay.
relocated. Yeah. We got shadow people on the first investigation. We got orbs. I mean, proper orbs that you could film floating
Yeah.
around. Voices. Two of my team actually got shoved into some of the furniture a couple of times. That was amazing because obviously an investigator, I would go running to see what's going on. They've told me what's happened, and I'm asking the spirits to do it to me and do it again,
Yeah.
so we can catch it on film. We did actually catch that on film. My team member was holding the camera at the time, and they just basically flew into this furniture. And then there was lots of screams and laughs and giggles, and it was great fun.
How do you when you bring a group of people together that have different views? Did you have there's lots of different sort of philosophies within with the paranormal. There's people, you've got the people that will believe anything that's in front of them, and then there's people that could be in front of them and never believe it. So how did you balance that with the people that you brought in?
I always give a team brief before we do an investigation, a brief history of the location we're investigating, what I'm expecting of the team, and my first expectation is always to explain what's going on around us first. If you can rationally explain it and rule out the paranormal, that's what we go for. We've been on many investigations where things have been happening, but we've managed to find a rational explanation for the things that have been going on. As scary as they were at the time, we felt really silly afterwards because we found out what was causing it.
Yeah. What are some things that you felt silly? Because
I did an investigation with my team at a place called Barris Hotel. It's a really old pre-Edwardian manor house. We did an investigation there, and I did something called a walk around before we investigate. I try and find out where the hot spots are, where the activity is happening. I'm going through the building quite happily. Things are going on around me, and I walk through one wing of this building, and the temperature dropped by 12 degrees instantly as I walk through. I'm getting all excited because that's a massive temperature drop, and things are going to be happening here. I go back down to speak to the building manager, and he said, "Oh, did you have anything happen?" I said, "Yeah, I went into this wing and the temperature dropped instantly. There's got to be something going on there." He said, "Yeah, we don't turn the heating on in that part of the wing." So obviously that's why it was colder. Yeah. So we can get carried away, but you have to rein yourself in.
Yeah. You do. I think when you're looking at these sort of natural phenomena, sometimes it really is just natural phenomena.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how do you find your places? How do you just at this Phoenix furniture place? How did you discuss? How were you given access to do the investigation?
Okay. Well, one of my team members' father actually run the business. So that was an absolute in, and he had been telling us about the paranormal activity that had been going on in the place, seeing people walking around who weren't there, and noises, furniture getting moved. So obviously that was our first investigation. That was a perfect foot in the door, really.
And what did you make out of it? I mean, you obviously went and did your first investigation. You had some experience. You've been doing this for a long time, so it's not just So what did you, when you got there and you started witnessing or investigating what was going on, what did you think was going on?
I tried to rule out any team interference because they were a new team, and they, it was very much a training process on the first investigation, teaching them how to investigate. So I had to warn them about going past lights or using night vision camera, because night vision camera can cast shadows from people behind if they're using a torch or things like that. So I was just making sure that everybody positioned themselves correctly so they weren't interfering with the evidence we were trying to capture. I made sure that if they were using any lights, that they were side by side. There was never somebody standing behind each other. So obviously it would cast a shadow, which could scare them because it's their first investigation. They see a shadow pop up on the camera. And other than that, it was making sure that if there was activity, to remove yourself from the area. If you're actually witnessing, say, a spirit orb, step back from it. So we can prove that it's not us interfering with it. So I actually sent them across the other side of the building to film the orb from opposite ends.
Yeah. Okay. And what did your team member's father think of all this when you presented the information?
I let him join in. He was on the investigation as well. So I was letting him get to grips with some of the kit we use, some of the night vision cameras and things like that. And he was the one who originally caught the footage of the orb, which was brilliant. Yeah.
What kind of kit do you use? I know different people use different types of machines and technologies. What's your favorite kit?
My favorite bit of kit, it's got to be cameras. I have so many cameras. I've got night vision cameras. I've got CCTV set up. If I'm doing a private investigation, say a family's called me in to try and help them deal with a spirit, I'll go into their property and set up CCTV cameras all around for 48 hours before I show up for the investigation. So cameras definitely the best bit of kit you can take on an investigation.
Okay. When you go, do you do stuff for the public? Do they contact you and say, "Mark, we need you to come and do whatever you do in our house"?
Yes.
You do get people, so people know who you are.
Yes, they do.
I'm always thought about there is obviously some ethical issues there when you go in, because people, have you had people that have never have sort of any unusual stories about that, of going into people's houses that have had what they've thought were hauntings, where you've either claimed they're not or they are?
One of the first things we do is we check, and it sounds quite horrendous when you talk about it, but we have to do an interview with them to check their mental health first, because a lot of paranormal activity can be put down to mental health. So we check to make sure there's nothing going on, no highly emotional situations that we're walking into. That's also to protect my team, because we could be going into a situation where paranormal activity is being reported, but it's basically people in a stressful situation and their imagination getting carried away. We've come across people who have been so scared that we've been on an investigation and something's happened and they've physically shoved my team out of the way to get out. So we have to be very cautious before we go in and do these sorts of things, and we always take disclaimer forms with us as well, and make sure that everybody's aware of what we're doing and what could happen whilst we're on the investigation.
Yeah. There's obviously different types of investigations. There's the kind of ones that don't go very long because you work out this, it's the drain pipes, or maybe there's something a bit dodgy going on. But there's sort of long-term ones. What's the longest, sort of the biggest investigation you've done in your career so far?
We don't do major investigations. The longest I've done so far is probably 24 hours.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't tend to go back afterwards, or you've
only if requested. Only if we're requested to go back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're very much driven by the people who ask us to come and help them. If they say, you've come in, you've done what you've done. I mean, we did one not so long ago, and I've had a text message yesterday from this lady who said, "Thank you very much. The house feels so much calmer, so much clearer, and it's like a weight's been lifted off the shoulders since we've been there." So I've just told her, things can pick up. It's like a beacon when we go in and do what we do. It's like a beacon to other spirits. We send out this beacon, and they're like, "What's going on over there?" And they'll go and check it out. So we say, give it at least 3 weeks for the activity to calm down after we've been there, because you could have some nosy spirits coming in to see what's going on.
Yeah. What are you looking for in a paranormal investigation? I mean, I can understand you probably like the idea of the hunt and the investigation and searching for something, but is there something more? What do you hope to get out of being a paranormal investigator?
I just want to give people that peace of mind, knowing that when we pass on, that's not the end. I think that's my biggest reach and my biggest goal. If we can, I think it's every paranormal investigator's goal to actually prove the existence of life after death. That's why we do what we do. And if we can give that kind of comfort to people, I think that's an amazing thing we can do for the world, to be honest.
Does it give you comfort? Do you feel comfort when you do this kind of stuff?
Absolutely. But when I first started, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I made a lot of mistakes, as you would imagine. Not much phases me with the paranormal anymore. It just excites me. So yeah, it's good fun. That's the way I'd put it. Investigating is good fun.
What do you think it is then? What do you think these things are when you see an orb? What do you think an orb is?
You get different types of orb. Now, this is where there's a lot of contention within this paranormal world about orbs, as you're probably aware. I'm not a lover of orb photographs because they can be explained as anything. You could have dust, you could have raindrops, it could be an insect. And what we look for is an orb that's creating its own light. So it's not a reflection. We're looking for something that's creating its own light and something that leaves a trail when it moves. That's normally the sign of a spirit orb. It has to have its own light source and leave a trail. Okay. I've probably, in the 14 years I've been doing this, we've come across that twice.
Yeah. So it is very rare, and that's...
Yeah, been able to explain every other orb we've ever come across as dust, insects, or rain.
Yeah. So that's why most of the photos you ever see are pretty much look like they're dust or a dirty camera lens or something like that.
Yeah, exactly
and it's very rare to see something you think, "Oh, that looks interesting." And you have seen that though. And how did that feel when you actually did see something that was floating through the air that was of clearly not a bit of dust?
The fact that we could track it, that was the amazing thing. And I'm going back to my YouTube channel. Anything that we find that's evidence, we put on there, and we tracked this orb that followed the line of a furniture, and when it got to the corner of the furniture, it disappeared off and then flew back and disappeared through a ceiling, and it left its own light source, and it left its own trail, and it caused. The best way I could describe it was like a burst of energy when it disappeared through the wall. You just see the poof go around it. It was an amazing bit of footage. Loved it. Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure we link to that. So we'll put that in our the bit down the bottom here, whatever you
Okay.
call it, the
Yeah.
description,
The
so people can
description.
know what we're talking about. There's no
Yeah.
point you there going, it was amazing, and then you've got like these videos and no one can
Yeah.
ever find it. Now, I do want to talk to you about Powys because it's something
Mhm.
we don't normally do. For some reason, recently we've been doing, I think, like out of the last 10 interviews we've done, they've all, like 8 of them have been in Scotland for some reason. But
Okay.
so we're in Wales now,
Mhm.
and I want to find out more about Powys. It's in central Wales.
Yeah.
Now, one of the interesting things I think, and I believe you have already done it, is investigations in the silver mine.
That's
Can you
right. Yes.
tell us what it's like doing an investigation in a mine?
Some people think you get quite claustrophobic. Yeah, I could understand that. I actually don't like being in confined spaces myself. But when you're in what I call the zone of investigating, that seems to go out the window. Um, it's tough going in a mine because there's lots of noises, lots of echoes. Like I say, you have to explain everything before you can claim it's paranormal. Um, we didn't really, as much as it pains me to say this, we didn't really get any refutable activity whilst we were in the mine. We got lots of things that were suspicious, but nothing we could definitely say was paranormal. But it was a great experience. We're down in a mine in the middle of the night with blooming hard hats and lights on our heads.
Yeah.
Just that experience in itself was good fun.
And
Yeah.
what were you looking for? Was there any particular? Because I know there's obviously lots of tragedy involved in mining.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that one particular? Was that something at that mine you thought was going to provide you paranormal
Yeah,
activity?
there was reports from the owners of the mine of being able to hear miners actually in work, Victorian Edwardian miners at work. You could hear the pickaxe swinging, you could hear people talking. Um, didn't happen when we were there, but that's one of the things, because that had been reported. That's one of the things we were trying to pick up on.
Yeah.
And some of the outbuildings to the mine on ground up on the ground were reported hauntings there as well. So we communicated with the spirit there. But unfortunately, I wasn't the only investigator there, and one of the other investigators from a different team had been drinking and was interfering with the investigation, banging things and.
Oh, you said you had another team with you, or?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And
Okay.
unfortunately, this is why I have a one rule: if you're coming on an investigation with me, you don't drink
No.
prior or during the investigation. Yeah.
How did that happen? How did you have more than one team working with you at the one time?
Oh,
Were you
we did
both invited?
we can do collaborations.
Oh, okay. Oh, so
Yeah.
they were there. It was there. They weren't just turned up and go, "Oh, by the way,
No,
we're doing some investigation." You knew
no,
they were
no.
going to be there. It just didn't work
Yeah,
out for you. Okay,
it
that
didn't
makes
work
sense.
out. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I think that is important. I think there's no point. I always have this joke with mates of mine that to do a paranormal investigation while you're a ripping drunk, and I think
Yeah.
I wonder what that would be like. I imagine you would see fairies at the top of on the tip of your nose and stuff like that. I don't think it'd defeat the purpose.
No, it does defeat the purpose completely. One very strange experience did happen there. Now you brought it up. My boots melted off my feet. Yeah.
Was that because you were standing over a heat grate or something like that? Or
No. I mean, you're deep underground. The only thing I can explain it as is possibly there was something in the water, in the rock that was seeping through. That's the only thing I can possibly do. But literally, my boots melted off my feet. The bottom of my boots came away completely, and they looked all melted. It was bizarre. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if that had been anywhere else, I think you would have been scared. But the fact it was in a mine, it wouldn't have been so bad. So, for people that are in sort of like would like to go to Powys, and are there any particular places that are known for their hauntings?
Yeah, we got the Albert Hall Theatre in Landard. That's excuse the pun, that's a regular haunt of my team.
Yeah.
The communication there with the spirits is full on. They interact with us. They've got to know us, and we know them on a first name term as well, because we've obviously through communication we've got their names.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, John's here. Come on, John, come and say hello, mate, and he'll come over and start interacting with us. And it's always a good experience there. It's always fun. It's always friendly. There's no bad energy there whatsoever.
Okay, and any other place? You just said that's that Albert Hall place. Where else is there? What other place
you got Barris Hotel, also another really good haunted location. There's a bit of a joker there, spirit-wise. He's, how can I put this? He's very old-fashioned, and he does like to be left in peace most of the time. And he'll come up to you and interact and say, "Do you mind? You're being too loud, and I'm trying to sit by the fire and reading my newspaper." It's things like that. So that's another good place. Barris Manor Hotel. I'm trying to think where else would be a good place. Where else have we done? Landard. Oh, the Red Lion Inn at 100 House in Powys.
Okay.
I contacted the owner because I'd heard through the grapevine that this place was haunted. So I contacted the owner and said, "Can we come in and do an investigation?" And he said, "Yes, of course." We get there, and glasses are flying off the shelf within minutes of us being there. And the pictures on the wall start swinging and vibrating. So he just looks at me and goes, "See what I mean? I told you." We investigated there, and it was full-on activity from start to finish. So yeah, that's another good place. The Red Lion Hotel, Red Lion Inn in
Okay.
100 House.
You're saying that some of these spirits are quite friendly and you're there chatting with them and all that kind of thing. But have you ever experienced any of that darker energy that you might
Yeah,
not want to go anywhere near again?
yeah. I'd say 98% of the time it's good fun. The spirits are quite interactive and friendly, but 2% of the time you can get them nasty, aggressive ones. We've come across that a few times now. Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen any particular memorable ones in any particular place?
Yeah, we were at. I'm going to reference the Red Lion again because there was a particularly nasty one there. We were there communicating with him, and we thought the spirit was lying to us. He told us that he was an American serial killer that used to visit this pub when he came to the UK, and that's where he'd stay. We didn't believe him. And he started giving us all this information about the people he had killed, where the bodies would be found. We research it as we're talking, and we find his name exactly as he gave it to us. We find exactly what he's done, even to the point where he said about where one of the bodies was found. We researched it. He was back in the 1970s when he did all these killings, and the last body wasn't found until 2001 in an oil drum. And he gave that information to us, and we researched it and found it at the same time. He was quite aggressive. He was very threatening towards my team. Yeah.
And that was what that was. It was basically saying the darkness is basically just the evil of the character, not the actual entity. Because
It's
I mean, I sort of see them as two different things. There's sort of the human spirits,
mhm.
and then there's the spirits that have never been born.
Okay.
So do you buy into any of that kind of thing? That I know that people have different views about
Yeah.
what is a spirit.
I've never come across I suppose for want of a better word, demonic. I've never come across that investigating all my time. What I have come across is very nasty people who have passed on.
Yeah, yeah,
I've come across the angry, the selfish, the ones who just want to hurt people like they did when they were alive. I try and explain it like this: when you're alive, you get good and you get bad people. It's no different
yeah,
when they pass. You can get good and bad spirits.
yeah,
As for the demonic or the spirits that have never been born, I can't say they don't exist. I've just never come across them.
yeah. No,
Mm,
no, that's fair enough. Now
mm,
we've all gone through lockdown over the last year and a half. I think
mm,
it's been a year and a half. It seems like a million years,
yeah.
and hopefully at some stage we'll be getting out of that. How has lockdown been for your group?
We haven't had a proper investigation for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
we got some coming up in July, which we're really looking
Okay.
forward to. So yeah.
Okay. And are they public ones? Are they people
Uh,
invited to those, or are they just going to be yourselves? Or
Initially, it'll be ourselves. We always do an investigation first, and once we've done the investigation, we speak to the owners of the property and ask if they'd be happy for us to bring members of the public, and then we'll advertise a ghost hunt, not an investigation, a ghost hunt, a completely
yeah,
different, two
yeah.
different setups. Yeah.
And what do you think you get out of that by bringing members of the public in?
The reason I started doing that to begin with is because I think everybody should have that experience. They should have that feeling of sharing of paranormal activity. And it's absolutely wonderful when you have a complete skeptic come in on one of these investigations and they walk away a complete believer. That's one of the best feelings in the world. That is.
Well, that
It's just a matter of sharing the experience. I mean, I would say anybody who's thinking about becoming a paranormal investigator, don't do it for the money because you won't make any. The best you can do is cut even. Another reason we take members of the public with us is because the tickets that we sell fund our next investigation.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's just that constant loop of okay, we've done 2 investigations here. We need to make money for the next one. Let's invite the members of the public across, and then that funds the next one. Yeah.
It is. So it's you buy your next gear and all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah.
So it looks like, I mean, it looks like you're gonna have some fun coming up in the next couple of months. I'm sure
Hmm.
you're desperate to get out there
Oh,
and
definitely.
do
Yeah,
some investigations. So anyway, thank you for that, Mark. It's
no
been
problem.
enlightening what you do. I'd be really keen to find out how you go on your investigations in the next couple of months,
Yep,
and we'll make sure people we get some links on the Spooky Owls to that, and so
superb.
people knows what it is. Now, if you'll give me the links and I'll put them down there so people can find out more about Powys Paranormal and how
Brilliant.
they can get involved if they like. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you very much and have a great
No
day.
problem. And you, thank you very much, David.